Welcome to In the Money, sponsored by Flyer Financial Technologies, the company that builds cutting-edge technology designed to solve asset and wealth management firms' toughest trading workflows. In this podcast, we help advisors and asset managers understand how technology is transforming the wealth tech sector. We'll cover how to leverage technology for faster, smarter investment decisions, megatrends, and more. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer. I'm fortunate enough to be joined by my very good friend, Oleg Tishkevich from Invent. If you don't know Flyer FT, we power the fintech you love and use every day. In today's episode, we're going to talk about data superpowers and how RIAs can thrive in the age of information. And so, thanks. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rusty.
You're welcome. Great. Yeah, so let me introduce Oleg a little bit because I think if you don't know Oleg, you should. A lot of great history in the industry and being a disruptor and bringing new technologies forth. Oleg is the founder and CEO of Invent, the leading cloud-native data and integration software firm in the wealth management industry. Invent has been recognized by Inc. 5000 magazine as the third fastest-growing wealth tech company in the U.S. 3 years in a row now. That's amazing. Prior to founding Invent, Tishkevich founded Finance Logic, a next-generation financial planning software company which sold to Envestnet in 2015. Oleg has also served as a member of the Corporate Resource Council of the Financial Planning Association. So, hey, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And for those who don't know, I'm at Market Council this week with a bunch of people I know, and it's a great conference, and it's a good opportunity for me to sit down and kind of get the current state of the industry and talk about problems that RIAs are facing and what they can do to thrive in the age of information and how to really leverage that. So let's maybe jump right into this, Oleg. My question to start with is, what if your financial data could talk? What secrets would it reveal about your clients, your business, and the future of wealth management? What do we do with that? Like, kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's different types of systems and interactions that advisors do with their clients and the data that's being collected in multiple different systems. It's really difficult today to kind of gather it all together to have a cohesive conversation, right? Across all these piles of different data, if you will, right? All these different silos. So I think there's a lot of technology with AI and other that is attempting now to be able to have that conversation with your data, right? AI probably would be one of the easiest interfaces to be able to have that conversation about your data, about your practice or, client preferences. We often, go reach out to AI to help us, tailor an email or even a topic for a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
But the challenge that I see with the data that's being used by financial services firms and the independent space, especially, right, it's very much in different places, right?
Right.
So be able to have a meaningful conversation, you really need to have, as a human or as AI, you need to have kind of idea about all the points and all the, I guess, characteristics of the data that you want to base your responses on. And, when that's kind of stored in different places and, in different systems without understanding what would be a priority of, one data piece or data conversation versus the other. And I'll give you an example. So let's just say you have data stored about your client and you want to have a conversation with the client about their data stored in a CRM, their data stored in wealth management, in performance reporting software, and trading, rebalancing, and financial planning. All these different systems have a number of different data points. Some of them are very much overlapping, right? Like your simple things like your address. How are you doing? How's the weather in Colorado? Well, I'm not in Colorado. I'm in Florida. Well, that's because, you might have pulled your information from your CRM that says Colorado, but that's the place where they spend winters, but they're actually, or rather summers, and then their winters are spent in Florida, but that's only available in your custodian feed, right? So just a simple kind of explanation here, but like be able to really gather this information together and have proper conversations and not just reporting on the information, but also, expanding this out beyond just reporting and thinking about some predictive analytics.
Sure.
Right.
So I think it's interesting because you highlight a couple of problems in there that I think all of these firms are dealing with.
Mhm.
One is data acquisition. I think another is having quality data that's actionable, but then also being able to decode it, right? If you can't figure out what you have, what do you do with it? And so legacy systems are always a challenge. We have data scattered across so many different locations. You pointed out custodians, CRMs, financial planning, performance. It generally isn't in a singular location. So being able to use it in a holistic way gets to be quite tricky and is a challenge, especially for larger organizations. And then there's the idea that maybe you need more real-time information, analytics, AI, models on top of it. How does Invent help firms overcome these obstacles?
Great question. So you're absolutely right. Through my career, I worked, for a number of different companies. Worked for Thomson Financial. Then I started my own firm with Finance Logics. Worked with a lot of integration partners around the industry, and then sold to InvestNet, and sold with all the challenges that they've had over the years working with different firms. It all comes back to the same kind of problem, right? Like, what if we could just snap a finger and just everything is just magically integrated?
Sure.
And that is exactly what I wanted to do for the industry. When I left InvestNet and started Invent, is how can we create an ecosystem that brings all this information together, makes it easy for advisors to interact with any type of software that's completely agnostic. It's not forcing you to go in one system and be, kind of only in one sort of all-in-one, but you can mix and match any sort of solution or any technology that will provide a unique value proposition for your practice and a unique experience for your clients that's the most appropriate. And in order to do that, you can't do this alone. Like, no one company, in my opinion, can achieve this, right? Because there's always going to be people that say, okay, this is great, but I also like this and this and this that you guys don't have, right?
Sure.
So I think in order to solve it for the industry, you really need to have an open mind and open structure to be able to do it. And this is what kind of Invent created. We've created an infrastructure that allows any firm build solutions that are natively integrated with each other without having to actually build point-to-point integrations between the systems, right? So as an example, Flyer building an app on Invent can now automatically work with all the CRMs and all the performance reportings and all of the financial planning solutions that want to use trading and rebalancing turnkey, so that an advisor, almost like a painter or an artist, right, can essentially take different pieces of different applications, clip them together, almost like a Pinterest board, and create a solution that they like for their clients, for their internal staff, back office, et cetera.
I mean, that is a challenge. And I think data drives success for RIAs largely. And so, we're in a time where, delivering hyper-personalized advice and building stronger client relationships is paramount. It's one of the ways that firms are growing organically, right? From consistent delivery of that advice, clients are achieving goals more consistently. And having an opportunity to have a single source of truth, or having, all that data in one spot, really does allow you to kind of bring the process together and not only deliver holistic advice, but deliver a holistic process. And I think that that's one thing that's been missing, because oftentimes you think about what the advisor desktop is like today, they're swiveling between application A and B and C and D. And so, they're in Flyers Copilot and they're rebalancing portfolios, they're trading portfolios, and then they're in Greenhill's performance measurement, report. And then they're in their CRM, looking for client data. And then they're trying to summarize and create notes. But now when you start to bring that in, you have a holistic tool that really does empower you as an advisor to go out and deliver a much more personalized and effective service to your clients.
Absolutely. And, creation of those efficiencies drive growth, drive, frankly, valuation of the company. Because if you can certainly demonstrate that your company is now on path to reduce that overall expense, so that for any new, like if you take software companies, why they have all these high multiples, right? Because they're able to create a process, to your point, that is highly repeatable and inexpensive, that could be applied to any client at any point of time at scale, right? So that's what defines sort of software solutions, right? With advisory business, a lot of it is driven by really two parameters, right? It's the front end engagement for the client, and it's also back office operations, right? And depending on as you look at, if you're an RIA, if you look at your firm, you need to see where your balance is. If you're 50-50, is that a good thing? What if you could start moving more people to client facing and actually gearing that scale towards growth a little bit more, and actually spending a little bit less on your operations, yet providing effective operations? In order to do that, you need to have the right process and the right systems in place that talk to each other.
100%. Right? I mean, streamlining operations and improving efficiencies gives you a lot of opportunity to spend more time with your clients. And directionally, I like what you're talking about, because gaining that competitive advantage to me is really kind of what drives the business growth, because it does help differentiate you. And you're right, it is definitely going to impact valuations. Firms who have higher adoption of technology and have more streamlined processes are more valuable organizations. And we are in a time where firms are definitely, I think, just from a standpoint of kind of people's demographics, are turning over. And it's been a mega trend for the last several years. And it's going to continue to be a very large trend for the next several years as the new generation comes in and the old generation kind of goes out. So maybe I think that might be a good segue into talking about the future of the RA landscape. So what's your perspective on the evolving RA industry?
It's a very broad question, but I'll try to answer it. Well, there's definitely, with the introduction of some very fast emerging technology and capital that goes into the RA industry, and ours being pretty lucky with the markets going up, it created this like the perfect storm here, right? So a lot of firms are looking to acquire other firms. A lot of firms are looking to growth opportunities, and obviously as they get to that point, they understand that like it's pretty challenging to manage all of these various processes that you have from different firms that require preferences, etc. So how do you scale? How do you grow efficiently and effectively, right? Without really putting you in a position where all these types of things now falling apart. You got to bring it all together. So that's one challenge that I see that some of these firms that are growing too quickly are experiencing, right? But I think with the enhancements of technology and some of the things that, frankly, we're all doing here, creating a community of companies that can really support that growth and kind of meet everybody where they are. I think that's what's important. I think times where I'm just going to pick a solution and go with it, I think those times are gone.
Right.
I think everybody realized that the cost of creating a really unique system was very expensive, maybe 5-10 years ago, where, systems were built by, only large enterprises that can afford to spend, millions of dollars. But now the cost of creating a unique experience have come down. So I think in the future, I see RIAs really focusing on their unique value proposition and be able to easily plug in the right ingredients into their formula without having to spend millions of dollars, doing that.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because I like where you're headed. I want to go one deeper in there. How is technology reshaping the role of the advisor? Because what you've built at Invent is trying to solve for some of those challenges and trying to reshape how advisors go about working with their clients. What do you think?
I think technology is making a huge impact on the on the advisor experience with clients. I think clients are demanding more turnkey experience with the advisor, but with all the things, So I can tell you like my personal opinion why advisors are never going to go away, right? I'm going to let you on a little secret here.
All right.
Okay. So my strong belief is that we're all humans. If we do something great, we want to be the ones who people appreciate for that success, right? But if something doesn't go right, we all want to ideally have somebody to blame. And it's very difficult to blame a machine.
Right. It is.
It's still going to be your decision. So, just psychologically, as you think about engaging with just machines only, the lack of this human factor of like responsibility or accountability that you really is very difficult to lay something like this on the computer, right? So it has to be a human, has to be a person. So for that reason, I believe there's never going to be a case where we will not have some kind of human financial advisor with obviously all kinds of technology capabilities, AI, data, you name it. But like advisor is a human, much like a therapist. They're not going to go away because you really need to connect. And ideally, it's not just behavioral. It's also about like, what if it doesn't work right? What happens?
Yeah. And I think that's a completely fair point because technology, at least as it exists in our current lifetime, is an enhancement to the experience and the ability for the advisor to work with you and produce something that's meaningful to you. Because, I mean, your words were meet you where they are, right? And so technology helps you meet your client where they are more effectively. And it also helps you meet you as an advisor where you are, because every firm's value proposition is a little bit different. Every advisor thinks a little bit different, but yet they all have to basically accomplish the same things in generalities, right? And so, I think that's one of the interesting things that Invent's doing is they're providing a tool set that really does meet firms where they are, and they can define how they want to engage and what does that single pane of glass look like.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, if you think about like the all-in-one concept that we're all familiar with, it's almost like defining or building your own custom all-in-one very quickly, easily, and inexpensively, right? Like that's kind of I think the next generation of what firms are going to be looking at. Right. Is like, no longer kind of happy with like one size fits none solution, right? I want a solution that is really custom for my firm, that helps me grow and adapt to how my vision is changing over time.
What are some of the specifics about Invent's technology and how it's designed to meet the needs of RIAs?
So great question. So what we've built, if you think about kind of like an app store, right? That you have, Apple App Store, where you can publish different apps. Those apps have different functionality, but they have one common data point the data points in common, which is kind of your credit card information, your first name, last name, and address, right? So for apps on the App Store, it's pretty straightforward, right? The overlap of data points is very limited. On Invent, we've expanded this concept. So we created an Invent store, if you will, concept where we can bring in data from different systems, and we actually allow each individual provider to manage how they share the data, what they share, because the data set, as we know in financial services, with your accounts, with your holdings, with your transactions, is, thousands of data points more than what we just discussed. So it's an exponentially more complex problem that today every company was trying to solve on their own. Right. So what we've done is we created a platform that now everybody can come together and actually decide how they want to get the data, how they want to share the data. And we just ensure that the pipes work across everybody without having to have that be done by individual firms. So just give you an example. Let's just say an integration with a CRM. Everybody's building integration with CRMs. So if you do go with a point solution, 1,000 vendors are building, 5,000 integrations to 5 CRMs, right? So, or you can just build 5 and have everybody reuse it, right? So that's where you get the scale. And I think through a community of companies that are open to this idea of efficiency and really helping RIAs and broker dealers and anybody really in financial independence space to grow and become more efficient. I think that's the holy grail.
It is interesting. You've taken away, I think, one of the fundamental roadblocks or inefficiencies in the whole idea of best in class, which is, there's really no value in recreating the pipe between the CRM or the portfolio management system or the custodial data and having, firms having to do that on their own. It's a commoditized activity.
Correct.
Let somebody who's an expert do that for you and move on to what is really more important to you, which is probably delivering advice, making sure things are happening the way they're supposed to happen. Decide what information you want in the CRM versus actually creating the pipe for that. We think about it at Flyer. We think about portfolio management kind of in those regards too. And we've outsourced some of our data aggregation sources or services, except where it's really necessary for us to do it on our own. Because frankly, there are people that are probably much better at it than we are, right? We would rather spend our focus and time and efforts in building cutting edge portfolio management tools and trading tools and having a team dedicated solely on that. I mean, we're very hyper focused on what we do. And, you're kind of like the super plumber. You've put all the plumbing together behind the scenes. And we just have to sit on top of that now and consume the data and make sure our data integration's right. And that's a pretty powerful value proposition, in my opinion.
Thank you. And I think one key difference in how we're approaching it versus any other data aggregation platform that every single data aggregation solution in the marketplace is about, we're going to be taking care. We're going to be doing the feeds. We're going to be integrating this ourselves. You just trust us. We're going to connect to everything that you need, right?
Right.
The difference with us, when we say, look, we give the opportunity to the third party, whatever that's a vendor or a custodian or it's a asset manager or a product provider. We give an opportunity for them to actually create that data adapter, or we call them data apps on Invent, so that they can manage them. Essentially what that does, it creates a decentralized, distributed network, right? As opposed to having one entity that you have to rely on, which obviously, now what if that company got acquired or something, right? Like there's a lot of challenges in, like, I'm trusting this company to do everything for me versus you distribute that responsibility across all your different providers, and these data apps, they're totally portable, right? They could be on Invent, they could be functioning independently. So we try to create a framework that is way more scalable and way more reliable from a standpoint, like we don't need to be the traffic cop.
Right.
We let each individual firm invent whatever they want to do.
All right. Clever, Oleg. So I would guess as, a firm that now for 3 years running is one of the fastest growing wealth tech firms in the United States, that you probably have some kind of concrete examples that you could share. And I think that that's where things really come to life. It's talking about how people are actually using the tool and the benefits that they're getting from using it, and how their advisors are better positioned to work with their clients.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, we just had some client meetings, and just the feedback that we're getting on the amount of efficiencies and the stories you hear, like, we have all of these workflows in the CRM that do set up tasks for our internal staff to copy data from one system to another. And, you think about kind of going and repositioning these folks to be client facing now, 3, 4, 5 people that were literally just copying data from system to system. And that was their full-time job. Now you're able to reposition them to be more client support oriented and helping advisors work with clients. Right? As well as, maybe ultimately becoming a financial advisor.
Right. So I guess one more question, and this is, back to leveraging data, because it seems thematically, one of the real key pieces here. What's your advice for RAs looking to leverage data effectively?
So there are multiple aspects of leveraging data that advisors really need to pay close attention to. I'd say number one, I'd start from regulatory compliance, because sure, you can have different tools that are available for all these different capabilities. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to own that data. You want to be able to own the raw data and ability to query the data however you want. Because as the laws change, you don't even know what the next question that SEC or FINRA is going to come up with that you need to answer. So by having a good data platform where you have a golden record of every single interaction between you and your clients, that is stored in its original format, totally queryable, reportable, that you can rely on as a business. It's almost like an insurance policy, if you think about it, right? Yeah. So I'd say that is the essential part that I would recommend every RIA to seriously think about. How do they secure one of the bigger assets in their firm, which is the data, right?
Right.
And then the second part of it is going to be future looking, right? So now that we have this capability from compliance perspective that we feel good about, next SEC audit, it's not going to take a ton of time. We'll just give somebody a login and they can answer any questions they want with an AI bot, right? There you go. Talk to that data. But on the other side now, how you start optimizing your client interactions, how you can start seeing what the client workflows look like, how can you improve those, as well as looking at prospecting, looking at various data solutions that you can intake information from various different systems and, look at money in motion. We have a number of different, there's a number of different solutions out there on the marketing side, as well as kind of lead generation side that help your business grow. And, they're working on Invent. We have this Invent Village that we're here presenting to RIAs. It's a community of companies. And we really appreciate Flyer being part of that as well.
Yeah, thanks.
That basically believes that the best way for us to really service advisors and service their clients is to come together and actually talk to each other and make our systems talk to each other in a more effective way.
Right. All right. Interesting. So what would your prediction for 2025 be? Maybe the biggest thing that's going to happen in 2025 is this. What would that be?
What I can tell you, maybe not 2025, but in the next 24 months, we're going to see a significant reshaping of advisory business, emerging of new structures in terms of how you create a business in advisory space, different models and how you service a client, and the realm of possibilities of what's going to be doable in a very short period of time that was not ever possible even 3-5 years ago, right, is going to completely change the way we approach things. And I believe that the future is literally, as I said before, each firm will become their own artist. They're going to create their own way of engaging with clients, working back office, and literally create their own apps.
Yeah,
right? They're going to have their own apps. So every RIA right now is trying to kind of put something together, with some type of integration. But I see many clients actually want to say, you know what, I just want to create my own experience. So I'd say, you'll see more firms really creating a totally custom experience for their clients, literally building their own apps.
I think that's interesting. I think you've got some legs on that one. I think that there's a pretty good chance that could happen. So, Oleg, I want to say thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to kind of sit down and pick your brain a little bit and understand what's going on with Invent and then more broadly within the industry. Really nice insights. Thanks for joining today's episode of In the Money. I'm your host, Rusty Sommer. I'm fortunate enough to have been joined today by my friend Oleg Tishkevich of Invent. If you don't know Flyer FT, we power the fintech you love and use every day.
Thank you for listening to In the Money, the show that delivers advisors, asset managers, broker-dealers, and other technology service providers the knowledge they need to navigate this industry. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Flyer Financial Technologies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.